During the brutal winters of World War II, the cold wasn't just a backdrop. It was an enemy, all on its own. Frostbite didn't discriminate. It struck soldiers in the trenches, guards on night patrol, and whole divisions stuck in frozen wastelands from Stalingrad to the Ardennes. Toes turned black, feet froze solid. Men who survived battles were carried off the line, crippled not by bullets, but by the cold itself. Yet in the middle of all this misery, a quiet, brilliant piece of frontline wisdom emerged. Something so simple, so effective, it quietly saved thousands of lives. It became known as the bootliner trick, and it's honestly one of the most ingenious survival lessons ever born from war. When cold became the deadliest enemy, the eastern and northern fronts of World War II were pure hell for any soldier. Temperatures dropped below -40 degrees Celsius. Weapons jammed. Fuel froze. Boots, stiff as planks, could stand upright without a foot inside them. And while generals fought over maps, the real war was being lost to the elements. At Stalingrad alone, over 100,000 German soldiers were treated for cold-related injuries before the Soviet counterattack even began. In the forests of Finland and the mountains of Norway, troops discovered the cruel truth. Poorly insulated boots could turn your own sweat into a death sentence. The real killer wasn't just the cold, it was moisture. Marching soldiers sweated into their socks, filling them with dampness. When they stopped to rest, that sweat froze solid. Once a boot's inner layer turned to ice, it sucked the heat from the foot faster than bare skin in the snow. The standard leather boots used by most armies trapped that moisture like a coffin. Soldiers could march with courage, but they couldn't march without feet. Then came a revelation from the north. Finnish troops, fighting in some of the harshest winter conditions imaginable, came up with a solution so simple it almost seemed too obvious. They redesigned the boot from the inside out. Instead of one solid piece, their boots had 2 layers. The outer shell, usually leather or canvas, was tough and weatherproof. Inside, they placed a removable felt liner made from dense wool or reindeer hair. The genius of this design was in how it handled moisture. The liner soaked up the sweat instead of letting it freeze against the skin. At the end of the day, soldiers could pull it out, dry it by a fire, or even inside their jackets using body heat. They carried multiple liners, one to wear, one drying, one ready to go. This simple rotation kept their feet warm, dry, and alive. While other armies were losing men to frostbite, Finnish troops were skiing across frozen forests with warm toes and full mobility. It didn't take long for others to notice. The Red Army copied the system, producing felt-lined boots for their Siberian troops. The Germans tried to replicate it with whatever they had, stuffing boots with straw, newspaper, even wool rags. Crude, but based on the same principle: trap heat, manage moisture, and never let wet fabric sit against your skin. So why did this trick work so well? It wasn't magic. It was science, thermal regulation, and moisture control. When your feet sweat, that moisture evaporates and steals heat from your body. If it's trapped against the skin, it freezes and turns your boots into ice boxes. The Finnish system stopped that by isolating sweat inside a removable layer. That meant the moisture had somewhere else to go instead of freezing directly on the foot. Wool and felt are naturally hydrophobic, meaning they repel water. But they're also breathable, allowing air to circulate and creating tiny insulating air pockets. Even when damp, these materials keep around 80% of their warmth. On top of that, wool contains lanolin, a natural oil that resists water and prevents bacteria buildup, so those liners could stay functional for weeks in the field without washing. The result was simple. Soldiers could survive and fight effectively in conditions that would cripple anyone else. Frontline soldiers, always adapting, found ways to make the system even better. Finnish ski troops packed dried moss or straw into their liners. It absorbed sweat and increased airflow, giving their boots a bit of natural padding. Others carried small squares of cloth or wool they'd swap out when damp. Tiny adjustments that could mean the difference between keeping a toe or losing one. When supplies ran low, even German soldiers adopted these field fixes. They stuffed boots with hay and rags just to create that essential air gap. Primitive, yes. But when you're freezing in a trench, that kind of improvisation is survival genius. And these small tricks didn't die out after the war. They evolved. After World War II, armies around the world took notes. By the time of the Korean War, the United States military had perfected the concept with their Mickey Mouse boots. Bulky, air-insulated boots with removable inner liners directly inspired by the Finnish design. Soldiers could now spend days in freezing conditions without their feet freezing solid. What started as a battlefield hack became standard military design. Today's cold-weather boots, whether for soldiers, mountaineers, or Arctic workers, still rely on the same principle: separate the sweat, trap the air, and dry the layers. The bootliner trick isn't just history, it's a lesson in practical survival. Whether you're hiking, camping, or working outdoors in the cold, the same method can keep you safe. Always layer your footwear with a moisture-wicking inner sock, a thicker insulating outer sock, and, if possible, a removable felt or wool liner inside your boots. Carry spares. Rotate them daily. Keep one pair drying while another is in use. If you're caught in an emergency without proper gear, you can improvise with dry paper, grass, or cloth inside your boots to mimic that insulating gap. The rule never changes. Never let moisture stay trapped against your skin. Dry layers, air circulation, and consistent rotation matter more than how thick your boots are. That's not just wartime wisdom. It's science, proven under fire. The story of the World War II bootliner trick is more than just a footnote in military history. It's a reminder that, honestly, simplicity often beats technology. When everything froze and resources ran out, the soldiers who survived weren't always the best armed. They were the best prepared. They understood that small things like keeping your feet dry could decide who lived to see the sunrise. That's real wisdom from the front lines. So, next time you're lacing up your boots for a cold weather trip, remember the men who fought, marched, and survived with nothing but wool, felt, and ingenuity. Their lesson is timeless. The best defense against frostbite isn't fancy gear. It's knowing how to work with nature, not against it. Because those who mastered it walked out of blizzards alive. Those who didn't walk out at all. If this story of forgotten survival knowledge sparked something in you, hit subscribe and stay tuned to Wisdom from the Frontlines. We dive deep into the battlefield innovations, survival tactics, and human resilience that turned history's toughest moments into timeless lessons.